Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, dear friends, Vaishnavas. Today is a very, very special day because today is the appearance of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, one of the very, very great acharyas in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara. If you open the Bhagavad Gita and see the disciplic succession, which goes all the way to Krishna, and from Krishna to Brahma, Narada, etc. And then in that parampara, which we are part of, the Brahma Madhyava Gaudiya Sampradaya, or ISKCON is part of that, there's a very, very empowered devotee, Narottam Das Thakur. So today we will try to understand who is Narottam Das Thakur and some of his pastimes. And Manjulali Priya Devi will be sharing about the life and stories of Narottam Das Thakur. And we are all very, very grateful to her, Manjulali Devi, for giving all of us this chance to hear about Narottam Das Thakur. And we're also very, very grateful to all of you for taking out your time on this precious evening. Today is the Purnima also, right? So it's very, very special. So without further delay, Manjulali Pradeep, we want to start, and thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Is my voice okay?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk about such a great personality as Narottam Das Thakur. He's one of my favorites, acharyas. His life is very 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 heart touching, motivating and inspiring of how to approach Krishna consciousness, how to serve devotees. He's just marvelous in his example for that, and I am no way qualified to speak about him, but by speaking about him I purify myself, and so I speak. And also that I'll be just speaking or repeating what the great devotees have documented about his life also makes my speaking little less imperfect. So thank you so much for the opportunity. We'll start with Mangalacharan prayers, and then we'll sing a bhajan by Narottam Das Thakur, a short bhajan, and then we'll talk about his early life. Time is always less to talk about such personalities, and we will not be able to cover his entire life, but just the early life, and then we'll pause for the day. So we'll start with the prayers. Om Agyantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिसिद्धान्त सरस्वतीति नामिने श्रीवार्षभानवी देवी दायिताय कृपाब्धये कृष्णसम्बन्धविज्ञानदायिने प्रभवे नमः माधुर्योज्ज्वल प्रेमाढ्य श्रीरूपानुगभक्तिदा श्रीगौरकरुणाशक्ति विग्रहाय नमोऽस्तु ते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दीनतारिणे रूपानुगाविरुद्धाप सिद्धान्तध्वान्तहारिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षाद्वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्भारसाम्बोधे पादाम्बुजाय ते नमः नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगावराय ते गौराविर्भावभूमिस्त्वं निर्दिष्टसज्जनप्रिय वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्रीजगन्नाथाय ते नमः जय श्रीरूप सनातना भट्ट रघुनाथ श्रीजीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतुषे नमः पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्त्याख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम् हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपिशा गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते जयतां सुरतौ पङ्गोर्मम मन्दमतिर्गति मत्सर्वस्वदाम्भोजं राधा मदनमोहनम् दिव्याद्वृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमद श्रीमद्रत्नागरसिंहासनस्थौ श्रीमद् राधा श्रीलगोविन्ददेवौ प्रेष्ठलीभिः सेव्यमानौ स्मरामि श्रीमान् रासरसारम्भी वंशीवटतटस्थित कर्षन् वेणो स्वनिर्गोपिर्गोपीनाथ श्रीस्तुना तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे We'll start with the bhajan, Dharmura Nityananda. It's a very sweet, short bhajan where Narottam Das Thakur is glorifying the association of pure devotees, the associates of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how anything and everything to do with them is so auspicious. So it's a simple bhajan. Dhanamura Nityananda पति मोरा गौरा चंद्रा, धन मोरा नित्यानंदा। पति मोरा गौरा चंद्रा, प्राण मोरा युगल किशोर। अद्वैत आचार्य बाला, गदाधर मोरा कूला। अद्वैत आचार्य बाला, गदाधर मोरा कूला। नरहरि विलासाई मोर, नरहरि विलासाई मोर। वैष्णवेरा पादधूली, ताहि मोरा स्नान केली। वैष्णवेरा पादधूली, ताहि मोरा स्नान केली। तर्पण मोरा वैष्णवेरा नाम, तर्पण मोरा वैष्णवेरा नाम। विचार करिया माने, भक्ति रस आस्वादाने। विचार करिया माने, भक्ति रस आस्वादाने। मध्यस्थ श्री भागवत पुराण, मध्यस्थ श्री भागवत पुराण। वैष्णवेरा उच्चिष्टा, ताहि मोरा मन निष्ठा। वैष्णवेरा उच्चिष्टा, ताहि मोरा मन निष्ठा। वैष्णवे नामिते उल्लास, वैष्णवे नामिते उल्लास। वृंदावने च भूतरा, ताहि मोरा मन घेरा। वृंदावन च भूतरा, ताहि मोरा मन घेरा। कोहे दीना नरोत्तम दास, कोहे दीना नरोत्तम दास। धन मोरा नित्यानंदा, पति मोरा गौरा चंद्रा। धन मोरा नित्यानंदा, पति मोरा गौरा चंद्रा। प्राण मोरा युगल किशोर। प्राण मोरा युगल किशोर। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. So today we'll be talking about Narottam Das Thakur, and this was one of his bhajans. And shall we read the meaning? Would anybody like to recite the translation?
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I read?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Lord Nityananda is my wealth. Lord Gaurachandra is my master. The youthful divine couple is my. Just one second. Is my life. Advaita Acharya is my strength. Kadadhar is my family. Narahari Sarkar is my glory. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else like to read the second?
Yes, Mataji, I can read Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
The dust of the devotees' lotus feet is my bathing water. The chanting of the devotees' names is my satisfaction. Considering the merits of all Vedic literatures in the light of devotional service, I have concluded that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the best of all scriptures. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I can read.
Thank you.
My mind is firmly convinced of the spiritual benefit obtained by eating the remnants of foodstuff left by the devotees. The names of the devotees are my happiness. The land of Vrindavana is the enclosure within which I kept my mind. Poor-hearted Narottama Das speaks in this way. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So today, whatever we're going to talk about is actually Narottam Das Thakur lived by everything that he is writing in this song. So we'll start his story, and before that, we'll just His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj said this, that we all need heroes in our life. You know, we all adore someone or the other, and we always want to look up to someone. And so let those heroes be the acharyas like Narottam Das Thakur and the likes, because we need heroes who inspire us to give up our materially conditioned nature and break free from the modes of material nature. That's the kind of hero we need, not from the fiction, not from this world where we are taught to entangle more and more in this material network. These acharyas should teach us, these heroes should teach us to seek out our highest potential as the humble servant of the Supreme Lord. You know, just imagine that Maharaj is saying, highest potential is being the servant. You know, here, highest potential is being the master in the material world, but actually, the highest potential for the soul is being the servant of the Supreme Lord. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a verse. It's Srimad Bhagavatam 3.13.4, chapter 13, text 4, canto 3rd. Shruttasya pumsam suchira shavasya nanva jasa shurabhir iditoritha tattad gunanu shravanam mukunda padaravindam hridayeshu yesham. This is a conversation between Vidura and Maitreya Rishi. So Maitreya Rishi is glorifying the hearing about the Vaishnavas. You should hear about the Vaishnavas from the pure Vaishnavas. That's the verse. Persons who hear from a spiritual master with great labor and for a long time must hear from the mouths of pure devotees. So you have to hear for a long time and with great labor. And from whom? From the mouths of pure devotees. About what? About the character and activities of pure devotees. Pure devotees always think within their hearts of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, who awards his devotees liberation. So, ultimate goal of life is to think about Krishna. And when we hear about the devotees, because they're always thinking about Krishna, it's easier for us to think about the Lord. So that's the verse, glorifying that we should hear about the great souls from great souls. It's the best. But I'm not the great soul, but I will try to repeat what great souls have said about Narottam Das Thakur and how he's so special. He's so special because Lord Chaitanya himself predicted his appearance. Lord Chaitanya, mm, Narottam Das Thakur is the ecstatic love personified of Lord Chaitanya. That's his position. He's also one of the Manjaris in the spiritual world, Vilasa Manjari in the spiritual world. And he's one of my favorite acharyas, along with Shamanand Prabhu and Srinivasa Acharya. Even their lives are glorious, besides, of course, our Goswamis. And coincidentally, Shamanand Prabhu, Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasa Acharya were actually contemporaries. They were the students of Srila Jiva Goswami, and Srila Jiva Goswami is one of the finest scholars, Vaishnava scholars in our line. So they are Shiksha disciples of Jiva Goswami, and they studied under him, and they pioneered the first book distribution together, taking out all the literatures, everything that was being written about Lord Chaitanya and Bhagavatam and everything out of Vrindavan, and they spread out and wide from there. So it was an important service that they did. And besides that, Narottam Das Thakur, later in his life, he um wrote so many songs, which one of them that we sang, but he wrote many songs outlining the tattva of the our Vaishnava philosophy and also his emotions, what he was feeling about the devotees, for the devotees, and his own emotions, his own separation from the Lord, lamentation from the Lord, the hankering that he was experiencing throughout his life. He wrote them into song. He was the Kirtan master, the Lord of the Kirtan, the king of the Kirtan. He was crowned later on in his life because he was such an ecstatic singer, so ecstatic that actually that pastime I really, really wanted to take up, but I don't think so we'll be able to take that up. But at one point he actually also did the first Gaur Purnima festival ever that took place. He's again the pioneer in that, and that happened in Khetari's village. And there he sang so ecstatically that Panchtattva, Lord Chaitanya and his associates personally appeared in that kirtan, personally appeared in the festival, and I was so ecstatic, so ecstatic. The kirtan was at its peak because the lordships have appeared. So he is called the king of Kirtan. Like before the festival, it is described that he was practicing all the melodies with his disciples and his associates. He was practicing every day intensely, and he was getting realizations of how, which melody would go with what, and putting all those tiny nuances of music into his practice of kirtan. So it was just amazingly sweet. I really want to take up that pastime, but we'll just start with the fact that how special he was, and just glorifying his position as being a special devotee in Lord Chaitanya's line. So one time, Lord Chaitanya and his associates were doing a kirtan very close to River Padmavati, somewhere in Bengal, now present-day Bangladesh. And as usual, they were just doing their kirtans, and Lord Chaitanya was beautifully dancing. And suddenly, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stopped dancing. He was standing motionless. He stared intently into the distance and fervently called, Narottam, Narottam. His body trembled and tears poured from his eyes with uncontrollable force. Overwhelmed with ecstatic love, he grabbed on to Nityanand Prabhu for support, but then collapsed to the ground and rolled in the dust, crying again and again, Narottam, Narottam. And everybody was so bewildered. What has happened to Lord Chaitanya? Why is he crying out someone's name? And we don't even know who's that person around us. So then, kneeling, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kneeled down besides Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and whispered sweet, pacifying words into the Lord's ears. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu simply threw his arms around Nityanand Prabhu's neck and continued to cry. He was crying, lamenting for something. Worried, Sri Nityanand Prabhu turned to other associates and he said, I've never seen him shed such profound tears. What has happened to him? And then hearing this, the Lord regained his composure. Everybody was chanting softly, trying to make Lord Chaitanya come to his normal self. And sitting up, Lord, he just looked at everyone and he said, he wiped the tears from his eyes and he motioned to Nityanand Prabhu that you come close to me. He instructed Nityanand Prabhu to come close to him. And softly he spoke into Nityanand's ears. He said, Nitai, you know that Sankirtan is everything to me. It is my very life. I want everyone in this world to taste the nectar of the holy name. But soon you and I will leave the world. Who will spread this chanting now after that we are gone? Who will keep the flame of love I have brought into the world burning? Before I leave, I must empower someone to carry on this beautiful Sankirtan movement. I have such a wealth of love of God, and I must leave it with someone. But who is qualified to inherit such riches? So that was Lord Chaitanya's concern, that he's come down, of course, on the request of Advaita Acharya, but he brought something which was very dear to him, a Sankirtan movement, which could actually reveal the entire spiritual world. And he wanted each and every living entity to experience it. But after they are gone, who will carry on that mission? Who will keep that flame alive? That was his concern. Just as a father is always, a rich man is always concerned. Oh, I have done so much work. I have so much establishment, assets, property, the empire that I've built. I want to pass it on to my son, a worthy, capable son. And they try to raise their son in such a way that they will be able to inherit and take care of all that they've done. So similarly, Lord Chaitanya was also concerned and wanted someone worthy to carry on that movement forward. And Lord Chaitanya is Sankirtaneka Pitarau Kamalaya Taksha. He's the father of the Sankirtan movement. He knows who will carry on, how will it be carried on in the future. Sometimes things may go not correct in the movement, and you may be worried, oh, what will happen to ISKCON? What will happen to this and that? How will the movement go on? But eventually, you have to always remember that Lord Chaitanya is the father of the Sankirtan movement, Sankirtan Ekapitra. He's the father, he's the master, he's the driver. And so he knows how will it go on for next 10,000 years. He just knows it. And we have to trust the process. And preaching will keep going on. It's just upon us to hop on in the wagon and be part of that adventure of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then after that, expressing this concern, Nityananda said, My Lord, you know everything. Only you can answer that question. Is there anyone capable of carrying on your mission? Who is worthy of inheriting your love? Yes, Nitai, there is someone, Lord Chaitanya said. His name is Narottam. Narottam? Nityanand Prabhu asked. Who is Narottam? Just a few minutes ago you were calling his name and crying so hard. But I don't know anyone named Narottam among your associates. Lord Chaitanya said, Narottam has not yet appeared in this world, but soon he will take birth nearby on the other side of the Padmavati river in the town of Khetari. Narottam will be such a wonderful devotee that every word coming from his mouth will be filled with love of God. And anyone who sings his praises will certainly attain love of God. So we are all going to be talking about Narottam today. And so we hope and pray that we'll also be filled with that love of God that Lord Chaitanya is talking about. So anyone who sings his praises will certainly attain love of God. If I leave my love with him, it is certain that the nectarian ocean of Sankirtan will continue to flood the universe. Puzzled, Nityanand inquired, but if Narottam has not yet been born, how will you give him your love? So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled. Tomorrow I will enter the Padmavati river and deposit my love for Narottam to retrieve it at a later time. And then he instructed Nityanand Prabhu, at the appropriate time, you must guide Narottam to the river bank to collect the divine treasure that I will leave for him. The Lord then stood and resumed his chanting. So it was very mysterious. And the next morning, the Kirtan party was along the banks of the Padmavati River. And then Nityanand Prabhu said, hold and behold, stop, watch carefully what is going to unfold now. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the river's waters just started gurgling and swelling, and and there was just so much turbulence in the water that it swelled over to the land. And then out of that the body of the water came a very beautiful goddess Padmavati, who was the presiding deity of the river. And Lord Chaitanya spoke to her. She asked, how can I serve you, my Lord? And the Lord said, O goddess of this river, Padmavati Devi, I want to leave my transcendental property in your care. My love and keep it with you until a devotee named Narottam bathes here. At that time, deliver this love to him. So that was Lord Chaitanya, predicted his appearance, Narottam's appearance. At the same time, he left something so transcendental, mysterious, prema, love for him to retrieve it at a later time. So such a special devotee we can imagine. Yes, my lord, she replied submissively, the goddess. How will I recognize Narottam? So she asked a very, important question like whom to give. I should give it to the right person. So then the Lord said, when a young, dark complexioned boy who is filled with love of God, he's already filled with love of God, enters your water, causing them to surge and flood the land just as it happened now, then you know that is Narottam. So then the goddess was concerned. She said, but my lord, if this boy has so much devotion that his touch will cause me to overflow with ecstasy, even before he has received your divine treasure, what will be his condition after he receives your love? So that was her question. Don't worry, the Lord interrupted. Narottam will sustain my love. When he comes, simply give my love to him. And then they continued, Lord Chaitanya came out of the water, they continued their kirtan. So then in Kheturi, there was this king called Krishnananda Datta and his wife Narayani. Now, king had everything. He had beautiful palace. He was maintaining it beautifully. The subjects were happy. They had a family deity. They were praying, everything. And he said, I have everything. It's truly a blessing to rule over such opulence. The king thought to himself. He was reflecting. I have everything a man could want: land, wealth, and a devoted wife. The Supreme Lord has certainly been kind to me. Yet the king's heart was experiencing this void because he was concerned that who will take care of his kingdom. He needs a son. He needs a son to pass on that kingdom. So he is a little bit upset. And many times, for many years, and he was growing old. So he was at a later age in his life. So he was very concerned when will the boy appear? And at one time he was sitting by himself in a room, just doing his official work. Suddenly he heard a voice, a transcendental echo in the room. And the voice said, "Soon you will be the father of a son named Narottam. This boy will shower the earth with love of God." That was the prediction. So stunned, Krishnan was looking around. Where's the voice coming from? And he couldn't find the source. But he said, "Am I dreaming?" I was like, "No, I'm completely alert." And I think I really, really heard the voice. So his heart was, filled with, some kind of happy emotion. And he hurried to share the good news with his wife. And a few days later, his wife came into the room excited. He said, "My dear husband, I heard, actually, I saw a vision. I saw a vision where a child from your body came into my body. And I think we're going to have a son. Maybe, all these omens are telling us something." So then Krishnan said, "Okay, okay, we should just not get too excited. Whatever is Krishna's plan, it will happen." And so we just wait. So then one day, an astrologer was visiting them, and astrologer predicted that you will certainly have a son who will be a remarkable devotee of the Supreme Lord. He will have the power to destroy the world's miseries, and he will bring great happiness and fortune to your family. So that was the prediction. Predictions were always saying that he's going to be a great devotee of the Lord. And then soon they conceived the child, and they couldn't wait. They couldn't wait to have the child. The 9 months, they were just so excited. They were always thinking about the unborn child. And then finally, at 6 o'clock in the morning, on the full moon day of Magha, which is today, January to February month, Narayani gave birth to a healthy male child. And when the child appeared, an unearthly effulgence illuminated the delivery room, and profound happiness swelled in the hearts of everyone. And he was a very beautiful child, with just perfect features, perfect tender body, and the whole village was celebrating that finally their beloved Raja and Rani, the king and the queen, have their baby boy. And they were all celebrating, singing and chanting their festoons outside. And then suddenly, one time during that early hours after the birth, Narayani, the mother of Narottam, suddenly saw the most beautiful two personalities appear in the room. One was molten gold complexion, and the other one was bright white and wearing blue clothes. And then she looked around. Did anyone else notice those two personalities? And no one seemed to notice, but she saw those two personalities. And she was like, maybe, after delivery, I'm a little bit, my brain is a little bit fuzzy, and I just saw something, but it was such a beautiful vision. But when she went back to the beautiful child, her child, newborn child, she forgot that. But she was unaware, oblivious to the fact that Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya appeared in the room to have darshan of Narottam and celebrate his birth. And finally, that boy has come. Then the name giving ceremony came, and the astrologers were there, laid out the charts, and everybody was talking great things about Narottam, that he's a very special child. And then astrologer, after a complicated calculation, they said, the child should have the syllables na, ra, and tha in his name. And we think Narottam would be a most suitable name because Nara means man and Uttama means topmost. It is clear from this boy's chart that he will be indeed the greatest among man. Narottam means great among man or great man. So he's definitely going to be a great among man. And so Krishna said, "Oh, this is what the voice said to me, that the boy will be called Narottam." And he was so excited that the astrologers picked that name. So everything is just falling into, in its place. And he was so happy, excited that finally the day has come. He is the father of a beautiful child. And then he asked the astrologers, "Do you have anything else to share about my child?" So then everybody was describing various beautiful character and destiny of the boy. And one of them said, "Everything is great, but however, you should be warned about one thing. So Krishna was all ears. He's like, what am I should be warned about? He said, you must exercise caution about one thing, that be careful when you take your son to the river. It could be dangerous for him there. The Padmavati river was just walkable distance from the palace. So he said, don't go to the river ever with your son. It's dangerous. So because they were very protective, they had their child very late in their lives, and naturally it was they became overprotective, and they were very always careful. Krishnan Datta was always guarding that he will not allow Narottam. He made a firm resolution that no, Narottam will always be accompanied by either someone, or we will not allow him to go to the river because it's dangerous. And then one time, after 6 months, came the day of first grain ceremony for Narottam. And again, it was because it was palatial place, everything was grand and beautiful. But it was the climax of the day that Narottam refused to eat the grains. Every time the spoon was brought close to his mouth for the in the grain ceremony, he just looked around. No, I don't want to eat. No, I don't want to eat. He was just turning his face in disgust. No, I don't want to eat. I don't want to eat. And everybody was so concerned, like, what is this going on in the festival? It was supposed to be a happy moment, and the child refuses to eat. And then one thoughtful Brahmana, he said, don't worry. I think this baby won't eat the sweet rice because it hasn't been first offered to Lord Krishna. And oh, okay. Then quickly the parents went and offered at the altar, their family altar. And then again, Narayani tried to feed Narottam, and Narottam devoured the rice that was being fed. He really ate with such gusto and such appetite. Then Krishna mused, for generations, worship of the Supreme Lord has been customary in our family. This child, although still so young, is already teaching us to be more mindful of our religious duties. Then Krishna pronounced, my son should be given only the Lord's Mahaprasad from now on. So that was the rule made for Narottam, that no matter what, he'll be fed Lord's Prasad. So as years passed, and Narottam was a young boy, about 5 years old, or turning to be five, he was about to start his school. But before that, one time, during the Rath Yatra time, Krishnan decided that he's going to host a lot of pilgrims because they'll be going to Jagannath Puri to and from that area. And Krishnan thought that he wants to make Kheturi a very comfortable place for all the pilgrims passing to and fro from Jagannath Puri. First, they'll be going to Jagannath Puri for witnessing the Rath Yatra, and then they come back on their return journey. So he wanted everything to be arranged perfectly. So during that time, when he was giving the instructions to his servants that everything should be arranged properly, make sure nobody's uncomfortable, whatever they need, how much ever prasad is to be arranged, just arrange that. That was the attitude during those days for people. Make sure that all the sadhus, all the pilgrims are comfortable. That was the duty of the king also. So then he saw Narottam was playing with his friends, village friends. And then Krishnan said, Narottam, where are you going? He said, all my friends are going to the river, so I'm also going along with them to go to the river. So then Krishnan was like, no, you're not supposed to go to the river. It's like, but Pita, I want to go to the river. Narottam said, no, I've told you many times that rivers are dangerous for you, the father said. Then, Narottam was a little bit hurt that he wanted to go and see the river. Krishnan said, okay, don't worry, Naru. I will have a pond dug next to the palace, within the palace grounds, and fill it with the water from the Padma, and then you can learn swimming under the guidance here. So he just made sure that Naru or Narottam should not go to the river at all. And tonight he said, something exciting is going to happen, because all the pilgrims are passing to and fro. Um, we're gonna listen from the sadhus tonight. So So Narottam was like, okay, okay, I will, obey you. And Krishna turned to the village children. He said, "Don't ever mention the river to my Narottam again." He was so concerned that these children will drag him to the river and something will happen to Narottam. And then he chastised his guards, like, "How come you allow Narottam to go, out of the palace like that?" So, then during those evenings, as pilgrims were staying, the sadhus were coming over to the palace and they were giving discourses. And so it was the first night, and Narottam was, they dressed Narottam up in beautiful, traditional clothes. And Narottam came out in the evening in the courtyard of the palace, and sadhus were sitting, other guests were sitting, and everybody gave respects to the king, the queen, and their little son, the prince Narottam. And the father said, "Narottam, come sit besides me, and we're gonna listen quietly to whatever the sadhu is gonna tell us." He said, "Listen respectfully to the instructions of the sadhus. Even if we don't understand much of what they say, we should still listen respectfully and try to receive their mercy." That's what the father said. Even if we don't understand fully, it's okay. We're just receiving their mercy. So that's like so cute. And then the sadhus were talking about the associates of Lord Chaitanya, the Raghunath Das Goswami, his life, how he was so renounced. He was just he was also a prince. He was also the son of the zamidar, the big landlord. He was so attracted to Lord Chaitanya's movement. He escaped from his house. He ran, and then he started subsisting on very very simple food. And even he started eating some point stale discarded prasadam from Jagannath Puri's back door. So all that was being explained, and Narottam was so enthralled by those pastimes. He was like, wow, his heart was filled with love and respect for Raghunath Das Goswami. His heart was, and then he said to himself, "I would like to be a great devotee like Raghunath Das." He was just so young and he thought like that I want to be a great devotee like Raghunath Das. That should be our aspiration. Our aspirations are usually material. I want this position, or I want this degree, or I want um, that acknowledgement or whatever. But here Narottam is so young and he's thinking, "I just want to be a great devotee like Raghunath Das." And after the lecture, Krishna and his family went into their private rooms and they were having their dinner, prasad. So then Narottam was called by his father to sit next to him. Then he said, "Then have sweet rice." So then Narottam said, "But Pita, Raghunath Das Goswami, he was eating so simple. Why are we eating so opulent?" He was so captivated by the story. He just thought that why are we eating opulent when Raghunath Das Goswami is not eating that? So then the mother laughed. He's like, "Oh, he's being childish." "Naru, do you think you have become a sadhu like Raghunath Das?" And father said, "He listens nicely. He's a clever child." He's so young, but he was so rapt attention. He heard the katha. Patting Narottam on the head, he said, "You're a good boy, Narottam. If you learn to take guidance from sadhus and serve the Vaishnavas nicely, you will be a very good king when you grow up." So that was the father's aspiration, was he'll be a good king. And son's aspiration was that he wants to be a great devotee. So they have a little bit of a clash in their thought process. And after a few minutes, Narottam said, "Pita, why don't we leave home?" He's like, because he was again remembering the story of Raghunath Das, that he left home and he was serving the Lord like that. He said, "Ha, leave home? Why should we leave home? Everything is so nice here." "No, Pita," Narottam said seriously. "You should run away like Raghunath Das did. We can stay in a dharmshala, but make sure your servant doesn't bring gold coins with him. Remember the story we heard about Sanatan? His servant almost got them killed because he secretly was carrying gold coins. So he remembered even that detail that Sanatan Goswami's servants got them killed because he was carrying gold coins. So amused by Narottam's childish talks, Krishnananda laughed again. He said, Naru, stop fantasizing. You cannot imitate devotees like Raghunath Das. These are great souls. They are worshipable people. We can worship them, but we can never become like them. We have to perform our own duties, to care for our citizens. That's again, he was thinking about him being the king. And even Raghunath Das Goswami's father was always thinking about him being the zamidar or the landlord and taking care of the future, house, the big property that they had. And here also, Krishnanand is thinking about Narottam. He'll be a great king. So then Narottam said, yeah, yes, Pita, Narottam said submissively, but then he thought to himself, yes, you cannot become like them, but I can and I will. Just see his resolute determination. Such a young boy, and he's thinking, I will become like Raghunath Das Goswami and all those great devotees. That should be our aspiration. So then his school started, his was first lesson, and Narottam was doing great in his school. For many years, he learned Sanskrit, grammar, but his heart was not in his studies. He wanted to learn more about spiritual topics. He was so hungry to know about all those spiritual personalities and topics and everything connected to Lord Chaitanya. So then, again, one time, many years after some years, he was like, one day he closed his book and he looked outside. Again, it was the time where pilgrims were traveling to and fro from Jagannath Puri for the Rath Yatra, and he saw all the pilgrims were hustling, bustling, and from the palace roof he saw everybody's walking around in their camps and all that. So he was very attracted. He's like, those Vaishnavas must be returning from Jagannath Puri, he thought. Intrigued, he watched them carefully from the palace. And then he was like, they are glowing with happiness. I want to understand their joy. What did they see in Jagannath Puri that made them so wonderfully effulgent? So he was like curious. He's like, why these devotees are so happy? I want to go and check out why they're being so happy. What did they see in Jagannath Puri? So then he said, Narottam ran to one of the servants for the palace door and tugged at his sleeve. Please take me outside. I want to get a closer look at the pilgrims. Servant said, I'm not sure if your father will be. Please, Narottam pleaded. Please take me, he said sweetly. Well, I guess it can't do you any harm, the servant said. He took Narottam by the hand, and the two of them wandered through the village, observing the pilgrims. So then Narottam one day saw a few days they kept doing like this. He would just go holding the hand of the servant out into the village. But one day he saw a very beautiful, old, effulgent man. His eyes were bright and clear, and his speech so sweet, Narottam observed from a distance. And Narottam was drawn immediately to him. He was captivated by his persona. So then Narottam said to the servant, do you know who is he? Who is that man? Then the servant said, oh, don't you know? He's one of the personal associates of Lord Chaitanya, Krishnadas Babaji. He's living in Kheturi now, in our village. So Narottam said, oh, let's go and talk to him. I want to know about I want to know about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the Brahmana was also captivated by Narottam's curiosity. So then he started narrating about Lord Chaitanya to Narottam, to little Narottam. And he was so captivated uh, that he used to come every afternoon after closing his educational books. He would go out to the village, talk to this old man, and hear about the pastimes of the Lord. And one day, Narottam got to know during those pastimes when the man was narrating. Narottam got to know, oh, Lord Chaitanya is no more there in this mortal world. He's left the planet. Narottam was he completely his face he was drained of color. He's like, what? I will never be able to see the Lord again. How is this possible? And then the old man consoled Narottam and he said, it's okay, I know it's hard. It was hard for the old man also, for that Krishnadas Babaji. He said, by just talking about the Lord, by narrating his pastimes, by talking about his devotees, by talking about his activities and instructions, we can feel his presence. So don't worry, Narottam, we can, still experience the Lord. Narottam was so touched by the fact, he was so consumed by those pastimes of the Lord. He was very deeply affected that Lord is no more there. But he said, okay, I will come tomorrow and hear. And Krishnadas was intrigued by that Narottam's sincere desire to hear the pastime. So he said Krishnadas should come to the palace and then talk rather than Narottam going outside of the palace. So every afternoon, Krishnadas was coming to their home and talking about different personalities, sometimes Jiva Goswami, sometimes Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami, all those. And soon these personalities became the heroes for Narottam Das Thakur. Like, what was the life of Rupa? What was the life of Sanatan? He really, really wanted to meet, he really wanted to go to Vrindavan after hearing such pastimes. Such was his deep love for the Lord. And one day this Babaji was telling him story about Lokanath Das Goswami, who will in future become his spiritual master. And again, Narottam was so intrigued by his story that he left his home to be with Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya, as soon as he reached Mayapur Navadvip to meet Lord Chaitanya asked him to leave for Vrindavan immediately. He said, "You go to Vrindavan and serve there. Vrindavan is all covered up. The pastime places are no more, really chalked out, and he must go and uncover those pastime places, uncover those kundas, the water ponds, the sacred water ponds, the sacred temples, the deities, everything he has to work towards it, excavate them." So it was very difficult for Loknath. He said, I came all the way to be with you, and you are asking me to leave your personal presence and go to Vrindavan. How is this justified? But Lord Chaitanya said a very important thing, that if you want to make me happy, you can make me happy by facilitating the other devotees to come close to me, because those who do that service are very, very dear to me. And then Loknath contemplated the Lord's words. Nothing Mahaprabhu had said about Vrindavan and its importance had persuaded him to leave the Lord's company, but his last point had struck a chord. There was only one thing that could encourage Loknath to leave Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that was the happiness of Mahaprabhu himself. With the realization that his actions could make the Lord happy, Loknath surrendered to the Lord's wishes. He understood that pleasing Sri Chaitanya by serving his preaching mission was more important than having the Lord's personal association. That's very instructive, that if you want to please the Lord or if you want to please the devotees, then we have to serve we have to serve their instructions rather than always looking for their personal association. And Lokanath immediately left for Vrindavan. And then Narottam was intrigued. He asked, did they ever meet again? And Krishnadas said yes and no. And at that point, his father interjected, Narottam's father, and he said, okay, Narottam, it's getting late. You should go for prasad. And Narottam looked up. Oh, Pita, is it late already? But Babaji was telling me of the most wonderful story. That's nice, Naru, but it is late. Go find your mother. Krishnas chuckled. Run along, Narottam. I will tell you more stories tomorrow. So, like that, the interaction continued for some days. And then Narottam grew up to be, a little bit more older, but still in his youth, very young, tender boy. And Narayani was perturbed by his inclinations. She said to her husband that I'm so worried about Narottam. He's always doing puja or talking about spiritual things. It's okay to have some attachment to spiritual things, but this kind of attachment, and for such a young boy, I think, it's not normal. So Krishnadas was also very worried about. You're like, yeah, I mean, we raised this child, we got this child because we were always thinking about our future responsibilities and the kingdoms. He has to have some inclination, otherwise, who will take care of our kingdom? And so he's like, okay, after deep contemplation, he said to his wife, maybe we should get Narottam married. Maybe that will tie him to the, to his house and responsibilities. So then Narottam was one day lying on his bed, staring into the darkness of the night, and he was thinking, enough. I don't want to hear, I can't bear to hear another word about property management or collecting taxes. So that was not Narottam's inclination. He was like, these things do not they do not kindle any interest in my heart. I don't want to hear about this. I just want to dedicate my life fully to the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He sighed deeply. I want so much to be in Vrindavan. I desperately want to meet personal associates of Mahaprabhu still living there, like Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. And many of them, they're already very old. How much longer can they remain in this world? I have to get there before it's too late. So Narottam was looking forward to going to Vrindavan. And in that deep meditation and deep hankering, if any of you have ever experienced it, that sometimes you want something so badly, and we're thinking from all our mind and all our heart, and we just really, really badly want to just think of Narottam like that. He really badly wanted to go to Vrindavan. He badly wanted to be meeting with all these great personalities. And so Narottam had a dream that night as he fell asleep. And Nityanand Prabhu appeared to him and he said, go at once to Padmavati River. Lord Chaitanya has left a gift for you and you have to retrieve that gift from the river. And Narottam awoke from the dream and he was startled. He was shocked to see the beautiful personality of Nityanand Prabhu and his voice and his instruction. And he pulled himself together and he's like, yes, I have to go out and get to the river because Lord Nityananda has instructed me. And he looked around into the night. It was early morning hours, but the sun has not risen. It was still dark, and all the guards, all the servants were asleep. So the window in the room was a little bit higher. And so he placed the furniture and then he climbed on the furniture into the window and out. He slipped from the palace grounds, uh, and then he escaped out of the main gate towards the river. And he was chanting all along walk. He was like chanting Lord Gauranga's name, chanting, remembering Lord Gauranga's pastimes. He was walking hurriedly towards the river. And as soon as he rushed towards the river, he entered the river. The river rose just like as it had done when Lord Chaitanya had entered the river. It was, and the goddess appeared. And then she said, before you were born, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left his divine love in my care and instructed me to give it to a boy named Narottam, whose touch would make my waters rise in the same way they did when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself came here. Clearly, you are the rightful recipient. I've been waiting for a long time for your visit. Please take this topmost treasure. Saying this, Padmavati Devi moved towards Narottam with outstretched hands, holding what appeared to be a radiant golden lotus flower. And after that, she disappeared. And Narottam was astonished to receive that golden flower. And that golden flower, right before his eyes, transformed into a beautiful golden colored boy. And that boy is none other than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this tiny, tiny version of that. And he entered Narottam's heart, and Narottam was flooded, electrified with that presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, overcome by ecstasy, and he started chanting. He was just immediately, in that mystical experience, and he started calling out, Goranga, Goranga, Goranga. And his complexion changed from darkish to golden, just like Lord Goranga. And a current of divine love coursed through his body, and it was so intense that Narottam was unable to contain his emotions, and he lost consciousness on the bank of the river. And then his parents came searching for him, and they were like, and he heard voices, like he was still unconscious. He heard voices in the distance. He was like, Naru, Naru, where are you? Look, there's someone over there. But it doesn't look like Narottam. My dear Lord, what has happened to my son? So Krishna Datta was so worried. He was like, this boy is about my son's age, but doesn't look like my son. So what has happened to my son? I don't know. And then squinting in the pre-dawn darkness, Narottam saw a large crowd of people rushing toward him with torches. To his surprise, he heard his mother's hysterical voice. It is Naru! Can't you recognize your own son? Look, he's wearing Naru's ornaments. So that's how they recognized, because Narottam's complexion has changed and his skin was different. So they couldn't recognize if that was his own, that was their own son. So by his clothes and ornaments, they recognize, oh, this is indeed Narottam. So Narayani ran to where Narottam stood and kissed his face again and again. And she said, Naru, Naru, why did you sneak off like this? Why didn't you tell us where you were going? We were so frightened. Then, then she said, what has happened to you? Why do you look so strange? Your skin looks so different. Are you all right? Narottam, it took a lot of energy for him to say, yeah, yeah, I'm fine, and then again, that vision of Lord Chaitanya appeared in his mind that, oh, that golden flower turned into golden boy and entered my heart. And then he again started crying out of ecstasy, Goranga, Goranga, and he collapsed again. Then, with great difficulty, they had to drag Narottam back to the palace. And Krishnadatta was thinking, maybe, there's a ghost that lives in this tamarind tree nearby, and that must have entered my Narottam's body. So he ordered his servants to call the exorcist or the tantric to come and do um, some remedy for the son. So, Narottam was also trying to, he was also in two worlds. He was going to ecstasy and then coming back, and he was thinking, about his parents' anxieties. Like he was trying his best to act normal, but it was very difficult because all those emotions and everything was surging through his body, that love of Godhead. So exorcist said, nothing is wrong with him. There's no ghost. Maybe there's a imbalance in his air element, and he needs to be pacified with a jackal oil. So, Krishnananda was thinking, ah, he kept telling, oh, what is this going on? We don't know what's going on with Narottam. How should we help him? And Narottam was crying. Then he told Narottam, Narottam, what this exorcist said. He wants me to put jackal oil. And Narottam pulled himself together and he said, do you think you can cure me by killing an animal to make medicine? Please do not commit this sinful act out of blind affection for me. Oh, Pitta, can't you understand? I'm not haunted by a ghost and I have no disease. I'm feeling intense love for the Supreme Lord. That is what makes me cry. Because Narottam was crying, going ecstasy. Uh, it was just too much for the parents. They were simple, pious people, but they knew nothing about the exalted states of extreme devotion to God. So it was just too much for them. They couldn't really understand how should they help their sons. It's just very difficult, few days because Narottam was going to ecstasy and coming back, and he was trying to pull himself. And then Narottam thought that, okay, um, I will, maybe try to talk to my parents. Let's communicate. Let's explain them that what will really help me will be going to Vrindavan. So he expressed the desire to mother. The mother rubbished it. She's like, no, don't even think of going to Vrindavan. You think it's easy to live like a sadhu. It's not. And what will happen to us? We cannot live without you. So don't even ever utter such a thing in front of me. So then he was like, okay, then not. He didn't speak that to his mother again. Then he thought, maybe I should try with my father. Let me convince him. And he said one day, yes, Pita, what you say may be true that living as a sadhu is difficult, but I'm not content simply following the family traditions and rituals. It's quite important what he says. I don't want to live a comfortable, pious life of sense enjoyment. That is only the skeleton of our religion. It's beautiful. Tattva is explaining that don't live just a pious life. Just understand the depth of the spiritual life that awaits us. He said, that is only the skeleton of a religion. There's no soul in it. Without elevation to Krishna consciousness, to the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, life is simply spoiled in the animal propensities of sense gratification. I want to dedicate my entire life to the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I want to give myself completely to him through mind, body, and words. To me, only that is real life. Everything else is death. So that's what Narottam expressed his desire. You see, we just sang the bhajan, and that's what he's saying. Dhan Mura Nityananda. Everything, my life and soul are Nityananda and Gauranga. Don't think it is so easy to live like a sadhu, Naru, Krishnanand said. It is very, very austere life. You're a prince. You could never live like a sadhu. It is not in your nature. Of course, it is a very nice idea to become a full time follower. I would also like to join his mission. But Naru, we must also be responsible. We have our own duties to perform. We are the patrons of so many Vaishnavas here in Keturi, and they look us to feed, clothe, and protect them. Don't you think Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would be pleased if you cared for his devotees? And Narottam felt silent. He was like, no point convincing them. They'll not understand my emotions. So then, few days again passed, and they were still concerned. And Krishnan said, maybe we should increase the security around the palace before he runs away, from the house. And Narayani was so nervous, she bit her lip and she said, guards or no guards, she thought, I will have no peace of mind. She was so scared that Narottam will leave one day. So then um, Narottam was again desperate, to go to Vrindavan, but he also understood that his parents won't allow him. So Narottam could indeed see how desperate his parents were to keep him in Kheturi, and he couldn't see a solution to the problem. Very sweet thought Narottam again will express. He could not be cured of the love God has placed in his heart. He was so enthralled by that love. But all he could do to ease the situation was to try to behave like a normal, obedient son and to trust Krishna's plan that he will make some arrangement for him to somehow get to Vrindavan. So Narottam was behaving like more or less normally, and his parents were like, okay, now he's at least not behaving like a mad sadhu. But what they didn't realize was that home is now like a prison for Narottam. He's not happy here. He wants to really go out. And so that's how we should also have hankering to somehow go back to Krishna, somehow go back to Vrindavan and reside there and serve the devotees, be with the devotees, like exalted devotees, and serve them. That's the hankering we should have. And nights were very, very, very especially difficult for Narottam. He just couldn't sleep. He was having those ecstatic symptoms of love. And one day he was crying, raising his arms, and he quotes this line in his one of his songs. He said, he was so helpless. He called out to the Lord, raising his arms. He begged, my dear Lord, please be merciful to me. Who can be more merciful than your lordship within the three worlds? You came just to reclaim the fallen conditioned souls. You will not find a more fallen soul than me. Musama Patita Prabhu Naik Vibhuvane. So in 3 words, you will not find a soul more fallen than me. He was crying out. Therefore, please, please, please place my claim first. O Lord Goranga, Nitai, Advait, please let me serve you. She was so desperate to go back. And that night came, the day came when he got the opportunity to escape from the house, which was adventurous. So one day, Krishnanand received, before that, Narottam got a dream about Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya said, you have to go to Vrindavan and everything will be arranged for you for the right time. And he also predicted that you will be initiated by Lokanath Goswami and you have important tasks to achieve for me. You have to carry out the mission. So Narottam was again restless after that dream. It's like, oh no, I want to see the Lord again in the dream, and I want to be with them. But how will I ever go to Vrindavan? How will that be possible? And again, he fell asleep. He again had a dream about the lordships. Um, and he saw the same scene actually of how what we sing during Gaur Aarti, that um, the lordships are standing at the banks of the river and the demigods are worshipping them. Lord Shiva is there, Lord Brahma is there. And his hankering increased. And one day, finally, that day came when one of the Nawabs sent a letter to Krishnanand and he said he wants to see Narottam. And they were suspicious that maybe Narottam's madness, the story of his madness has reached Nawab, and Nawab wants to, do some checking or what. We don't know. So then Narayani said, is it really important to send him? And he said, maybe I have to because Nawab is ruling the ultimate ruler and we are answerable to them. We have to send. So everything was arranged for Naru, palanquins, the army, the people, the guards to protect him from running away, but at the same time get to Nawab. And Narottam was like, finally, probably the day is here when I can escape. So Narayani, before bidding farewell to Narottam, she said, Narottam, please come back soon again, you just come back soon, as soon as possible. So Narottam said, yeah, mother, I'll be back. But internally, he was thinking, I need to escape. I will not come back home. And then finally, they reached their first destination for the camp to rest. The entire army was sleeping, and Narottam escaped from there while everyone was sleeping. And he ran and ran and ran into the forest, deep into the forest, without stopping for several hours. He was just running. And he didn't rest for long anywhere, like more than few minutes. He was just running because he was scared that the guards will come on their horses and elephants and chase him and take him back to the home. And he was like, I don't want to go back to my home. I just don't want to go back. And after many days, he just had actually collapsed on the floor, on the ground, in the forest ground. And he was like, so tired. And that moment, the guards came in. He's like, hey, Prince, you have to go back home. Your parents are worried. What are you doing? You're running away from duties. And they're, they're thinning from anxiety. You're doing just so great injustice to them. So Narottam was thinking the guards are actually making him feel guilty that Narottam will come because of his parents. But Narottam actually said very beautiful statements to the guards. He said, a faithful widow may decide to join her husband on his funeral pyre. I have decided to climb the pyre of pure Krishna consciousness and leave my material life behind. And when a woman wants to show her devotion to her dead husband in this extreme way, it's natural for her well wishers to try to stop her. I understand you don't want me to enter the fire of God consciousness, but please understand that I would be less than a faithful servant of my Lord if I didn't attempt to enter that fire. And when they heard these determined statements of Narottam, they said, okay, we can't really bring you back. And so Narottam continued his journey into the forest for many, many days, several days, and then finally he collapsed, where Lord Chaitanya, in the form of a young boy, brought him kheer or sweet rice, which rejuvenated him and which was told by Rupa Goswami in the dream that that kheer is from personally from Lord Chaitanya. Have that and continue your journey to Vrindavan. So then Narottam woke up, drank that kheer, and he was rejuvenated. And he continued his journey through Prayag, through Varanasi, on towards the east side of India. And for 2 months he was walking. And I think we should stop. But he reached Vrindavan. I'm skipping some details. He reached Vrindavan, and there he asked some village women, "Oh, what temple is that?" And village women said, "Oh, that's Govind Dev Ji temple." It's like Govind Dev Ji temple. He just ran to the temple, and there he collapsed out of ecstasy. And when he opened his eyes, just imagine when we had fainted and open our eyes, and we are greeted by none other than Shri Jiva Goswami. It's like Jiva Goswami recognized Narottam. Oh, this young boy has come finally to Vrindavan. It's like, how do you know? Narottam said, Jiva Goswami said, Narottam, welcome to Vrindavan. I am Jiva Goswami. And Narottam's eyes widened. He said, Jiva Goswami, finally, I've seen him. And then he was warmly welcomed by Jiva Goswami and other devotees of Vrindavan. And he finally met Lokanath Goswami, served him, even though Lokanath Goswami had vowed that he will not accept any disciples. He, Narottam Das Goswami, upon Jiva Goswami's instructions, Jiva Goswami said, you serve him, and then he'll be pleased by your service. So, and Lokanath Goswami was such a renunciant. He didn't have a house. He didn't have any property. He was living in a bower, in a kunja, didn't have any liabilities. What service can somebody provide to such a person? So, but Narottam was so eager to take initiation to receive the mercy of Lokanath Goswami that he thought that after Lokanath Goswami will do his morning duties of passing his stool, he will clean the area after him. And so several days he was doing, and Lokanath became suspicious. He's like, who's cleaning up after me? And one morning, very early morning, he caught Narottam doing that. And then Narottam Das Thakur, Lokanath Goswami became pacified and accepted Narottam Das Thakur as his only disciple, which is also a beautiful ceremony, but we're over time and we'll stop here for the day. If anybody would like to share anything that struck them from the past time.
Thank you. Let's see if we have anyone who wants to share. It's a little bit later.
Thank you, Mataji. It was just a wonderful class. Felt like hearing more and more. You very beautifully explained. So it was very nice. I mean, no question at this point of time, but yeah, I really enjoyed. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
So much, Mataji. Yeah, the whole life of Narottam Das Thakur is so adventurous and amazing. It's beautiful. Mhm. The book distribution pastime, the first Gaur Purnima festival, the Kirtan festivals, the his preaching chronicles is just very, very sweet. His relationship with other Vaishnavas. Yeah. Thank you. you so much. Anybody else?
I especially like this part that although he was born in such a royal family, the kings, but nothing could stop him because his love for Krishna was so deep and profound. So it's very, very inspiring, and thank you for sharing. Anyone else has any last comments for the day before we wrap up? Okay, so I guess we'll pause here and thank you all for joining. Shri Narottam Das Thakur ki jai, Jagadguru Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaur Bhaktavinda ki jai, Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha, Titanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.